My name is Joe Hillock, and I live at the Lancey Court across the street, 37 Rittenhouse Circle. And I'm currently the president of our HOA at the Lancey Court. I would like to have read into the record my comments regarding the proposed building of the 45 homes along the Twanny Bridge Road and the proposed egress points. On September the 8th, I sent a letter to the Board of Supervisors regarding the conditional use application to build the 45 homes along Twanny Bridge Road. This letter was in response to Greg Adelman's letter of August the 28th, and Greg is the attorney representing Toll, and I trust that the board has read the letter. We were dismayed that Greg Alderman's letter was only sent to a handful of the Lancey Court residents, and in the spirit of full disclosure, why wasn't everyone in the development notified at that time? The proposed location of the access road in the letter from Greg Adelman is directly across the street from the Lancey Court, and we only have one egress point. Since the letter from Greg Adelman is the only communication the Lancey Court has received from Toll in more than a year, we can only have educated guesses to formulate their conclusions. Why did Toll not consider the North Drive outside of Newtown Grant in their development plan? The Municipal Drive alternative certainly needs more extensive evaluation. As stated in my letter to the Township, a precondition that a traffic light be installed is an absolute necessity before construction begins. The additional traffic from the new homes that would most certainly exacerbate the congestion that we are currently experiencing. Going forward, we would expect to be notified whenever you plan to discuss this project, and we would welcome any township supervisors at our Delancey Board meeting to further clarify and discuss the situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Frank Mccarron, and my address is 42 Rittenhouse Circle, Newtown. I'm submitting at this meeting a copy of the October 2008 case study by the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission of Durham Road and Wrightstown and Newtown Townships. I request that this study be attached to the minutes of this meeting. The Commission specifically recommended in Figure 7B of the study that the Toll Brothers Twanny Bridge Road parcel be accessed by the traffic light at North Drive. There was never supposed to be egresses from this development onto Twanny Bridge Road, nor onto Municipal Drive. I asked the Board of Supervisors to authorize an independent investigation to determine why the recommendation in this study was not followed. This study says on page 1 that its recommendations were developed with municipal, county, and PennDOT staff participation. By not having the knowledge in this study preserved and incorporated into the conditional use planning process, the Township has suffered an integral failure in its approval procedures for this Toll Brothers property. Either someone in the planning process dropped the ball or something procedurally went wrong, and I believe that someone independently should determine what happened and what can be done to prevent it from happening again. As for diverting traffic to Municipal Drive, I believe that the Board of Supervisors owe the residents of Lancey Court an explanation as to why we were kept in the dark about this proposed settlement for what appears to be nearly a full year. In his letter of August 27th, Attorney Greg Adelman said that Toll Brothers discussed this proposed settlement with the Board of Supervisors almost a year ago, shortly after Toll filed its appeal in September of 2020. The date of the engineering plan prepared by ESE Consultants was November 10th, 2020, over 10 months ago. The plan also indicates that there were 4 revisions. The description of the last 2 revisions in March and May of 2021 were called Township comments. There was not only obvious involvement by the Township in drafting this plan, but ample time to approach the residents of Lancey Court, either directly or through its HOA, to seek our input, but no one chose to do so. For that matter, there was also ample time to approach PennDOT, but perhaps someone was worried that PennDOT would say to follow the recommendation in the study. I am requesting that you bring this study to PennDOT's attention and seek their input prior to moving forward with any settlement. Residents of Lancey Court should also be allowed to advocate their position with PennDOT as part of this process. I submitted a right-to-know request to the Township last week, requesting, among other things, the complete plans submitted to the Township by ESE Consultants, including revisions and related correspondence. The response I received was that my request was under attorney review, and I should receive an answer as to whether my request will be honored by October 20th. Therefore, I am asking that an independent review also address how this matter has been handled vis-a-vis communication with affected residents and PennDOT. At the August 26, 2020 meeting of the Board of Supervisors, a number of residents, including me, suggested that the entrance to this community be aligned with the traffic light at North Drive. I don't believe anyone is aware of that study at the time. The only person who voiced an objection was Mr. Calabro. Mr. Calabro's bio indicates that he is a longtime resident of Newtown Grant, having served for over 20 years on the Society Place HOA Board and having been both the former president and vice president of the Newtown Grant Master Board. I have no problem with residents advocating for what is in their personal best interest regarding this new development, provided they are advocating from this podium. By voicing his objections during the August 26, 2020 meeting about North Drive, given he lives near that intersection and his prior representation of residents of Newtown Grant, I believe that Mr. Calabro has demonstrated a conflict of interest in this matter. Given how this settlement has been kept secret, I am concerned both how the chairman's position was interpreted by Toll Brothers, as well as what was said in private executive sessions of the board, particularly with supervisors running for re-election. Therefore, I am asking that the chairman recuse himself from this matter, or at a minimum, if this proposed settlement is brought to the Board of Supervisors for a vote, that the chairman abstain from voting. I invite Mr. Calabro to stand at this podium and state his objections to the recommendation of the Delaware Valley Planning Commission. Lastly, I am calling on the Township to undergo an independent review as to whether the ICMA Code of Ethics has been followed in this matter. The way this matter has been handled, in my opinion, runs afoul of that Code of Ethics. Namely, Tenet 3, members should conduct themselves so as to maintain public confidence in their position. I believe that the lack of transparency with the Lancey Court residents for nearly a year violates this tenet. Tenet 4, members should inform the governing body of the anticipated effect of a decision on people in their jurisdictions, especially if specific groups may be disproportionately harmed or helped. The question here is who knew or should have known that this settlement disproportionately harms the senior citizens residing in Lancey Court. Tenet 7, members may advocate for issues of personal interest only when doing so does not conflict with the performance of their official duties. I believe that Township officials owe a duty to the safety of residents that supersedes the interest in the community in which they live. Tenet 9, keep the community informed on local government affairs. I believe there has been a prolonged and ongoing breach of this tenet. In conclusion, the concerns of the Lancey Court should be addressed in advance of and part and parcel to any proposed settlement. Thank you.
Before we go on, could I just beg a moment of time to let the solicitor clarify where we are in this process?
Yeah.
Before we repeat it so many times.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I think the residents of the Lancey Court know, This is a settlement proposal. Nothing has been decided, nothing has been acted on by the board. It's not on tonight's agenda, it's not going to be on the next meeting's agenda. It's not ready to be considered by the board, and the board has asked me to schedule a meeting with residents of the Lancey Court, Toll Brothers, and Township staff to discuss the issues that the neighbors are concerned with. So that meeting is yet to be scheduled. It will be scheduled. No decision will be made by this board until that meeting is held. And we also have asked that a traffic signal warrant form be submitted to PennDOT to see whether the intersection warrants a traffic signal based on the number of trips, the accident history, and whatever other factors the PennDOT uses to determine whether a signal is warranted. That is in the exclusive jurisdiction of PennDOT and not within the jurisdiction of the township. Additional and new traffic counts are being made for traffic on 413 already, and I would assume traffic exiting Lancey Court would be included in that, plus traffic entering and exiting the municipal complex, the fire and public works buildings in the back, etc. Finally, with regard to the issue of a potential conflict between emergency services vehicles, fire, police, and emergency services, and cars coming from the proposed development that would use Municipal Drive to exit the development. The plan proposes an emergency access road that runs behind the current police building and accesses 413 further south than Municipal Drive, so that if municipal emergency services vehicles are required to exit and head south or avoid traffic or any vehicles waiting to exit at Municipal Drive, they can use this alternative emergency access only route to get on to 413. We've also had the opinions of the police, the fire, and the emergency services departments that they are not concerned at all with any potential conflict with regular passenger vehicles of residents from the proposed development or others at the intersection of Municipal Drive and 413. So that's a little bit of a summary of where we are. Again, emphasize there will be a meeting with the Lancey Court residents, Toll Brothers, and Township staff to review issues of import to the neighbors. The Township has received all of the neighbors' letters, emails, and correspondence. They have been distributed to all supervisors. I think everybody is very aware of your concerns, and that's about it
Okay.
as far as that goes.
I really feel that the supervisors really are not understanding my position here. The supervisors are allowing Toll Brothers to drive the narrative instead of the Township driving the narrative. So, for example, to me, it's not what's relevant is whether or not a traffic light is warranted. To me, what's relevant is going to PennDOT and saying, we have a recommendation that you were part of to have this access at North Drive. Do you think it would be safer to have it at North Drive or at this unsignalized intersection here? That's what's relevant. Toll Brothers is advocating for their position, not for us. I mean, they sent me a letter. That's fine. They can advocate for their position. But it's not like they said in their letter, here are the great things about our proposal. On the other hand, here's what's wrong with our proposal. We haven't addressed flooding on Twining Bridge Road. We really don't care if a few seniors might get in more accidents than if the exit was on North Drive. It's up to the township. The township is who represents us. The township is the one that should be taking the lead here and acting on our behalf. If you're going to let Toll Brothers drive the bus, which is what's been described to me, then you're going to get a result, but it is a result that is not going to be in the best interest of residents. I believe the township supervisors need to step up and control the narrative here. Don't let Toll Brothers just sell what they want to say. What they want to say to, fine. Toll Brothers wants to say things to PennDOT, fine. What's the township's view? Say the township's view. Let us say our view. You're not letting, well, you're just not recognizing that you've given Toll Brothers the control of the narrative here, and you need to take it back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mccann. I know this is not a time for back and forth. This is for the public to make comments. But Mr. Mack, do you have something that's...
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Mr. Sander, for your information, some of which is the first time I've ever heard of it. And you mentioned, for example, that the board instructed you to have this meeting. Again, that's one of the items I've never heard about until just now. When you say the board did that, when did we do that?
If I said board, I misspoke. I meant township manager's office and staff.
I see. Okay, so how does that meeting get organized? Is it just the members of the Lancey Court and the township personnel? Or does board members get involved like we did when we had conversations about the Arcadia project, where we specifically had supervisors on a Zoom call, for example? Because I'm afraid, and I agree with Mr. Mccarron, we're not getting first-hand information. We're getting it second-hand.
How's that, Mr. Mack?
Well, if you have this meeting and I'm not invited to the meeting, whatever
You're
happens...
You're invited to the meeting.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that.
If there's more than two supervisors present, it has to be a public advertised meeting.
Well,
if there are less, let me finish. If there are two or less supervisors present, then it doesn't have to be an advertised meeting, but that notice will be given to.
We're not talking about, any business decisions. I know we've had supervisors more than...
Doesn't matter, we're discussing agency business, and that has to be advertised.
Didn't we participate in the Arcadia discussions? Was that
No more than two supervisors participated in any given discussion about Arcadia at any one time.
Okay, it's maybe not. I'm too old, I can't remember, so I'll have to go back and look at my recording of that Zoom meeting.
If it was more than two supervisors, it was advertised.
Let's continue with the public comment. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I can
Please
take this
introduce
off.
yourself.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Dennis, with yours on. Anyway, good evening. My name is Bill Schreiber. I'm also a resident at the Lancey Court at 105 Rittenhouse Circle across the street. I had some comments of a different nature around using the township municipal complex property as part of Toll's solution to this development that they're proposing. So, based on scale maps that they sent us, okay, and a township map that I got yesterday from the township office, this is a rough block. It's gonna be hard to see because it's blown up from the little teeny stuff that Toll sent us. But this represents the complete municipal complex. It's about 24 acres over there. The area in blue here is what's left of this parcel for expansion of township services, okay? Think the possibility of a community center. Think if the office space isn't enough for all the township departments, where would you put it? So there is space here, roughly 7.5 acres that's available today. And the proposal that's being put forward puts this roadway right in the middle of that available available space, that 7.5 acres, takes about 3 acres of it, okay, to do that. And it makes the rest of the property pretty hard to use. This area is only about 1.6 acres, small area at the front, and it'd be tough to get access along Municipal Drive there, given all the other things we've been talking about here. And the area in the back really can't be accessed unless you do something to, interfere with the current approach to the Public Works building that's here. So the question I guess I have here is, why is it that the town would facilitate pulling residential traffic 1,500 feet south from the center of this development, dumping it onto the municipal complex, all right, and then conceding that valuable property to a $7.2 billion company, Toll Brothers, all right, making it impossible to expand the township services, as we may well need sometime soon. So how would the township, how would the citizens of the township be compensated for giving away such an important and strategic piece of property? So, and maybe there's a different solution that's been proposed. Maybe they plan on buying it for several $1 million or something like that. But in any case, it certainly, I think, is going to interfere with the possibility of expanding the use of the very important municipal complex that we're sitting in here tonight. So that really is all I had to comment. I have a copy of these comments as I read them tonight and the pictures, and I was just wondering if it could be included.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Schreiber.
Hello, my name is Maureen Schreiber, and I also live at 105 Rittenhouse Circle. And my comments tonight are in regards to the All Saints Cemetery proposed settlement. My biggest concern is for safety, and thank you, Mr. Counselor, for clarifying some of the questions that I have. So some of my questions you may have addressed, but if it's okay with you, I'd like to express them as I have prepared them.
By all means.
My main concern is for all residents of Newtown. And the current proposal, which recommends using Municipal Drive as the primary entrance, I believe is a disaster waiting to happen. As we all know, we have a lot of the municipal complex, we have the public works, water towers, snow plows, fire, and police, all using that. The thought of mixing residential traffic with emergency and emergency service vehicles, I think is irresponsible. I think it could delay responses when we know minutes or even seconds can matter in an emergency. Imagine commuter traffic, including cars, buses, a snowplow, and an Amazon delivery truck lined up on Municipal Drive waiting to exit and get onto 413, while we have cars on 413 trying to come onto Municipal Drive, and there's a fire, and we have to have fire trucks and police respond. Municipal Drive does not have a shoulder, so I can't imagine how those cars would be able to clear the way for the emergency vehicles. I'm guessing that we all hope our house is not burning down in that type of a situation. The Municipal Drive, I believe, is also pretty much at capacity. As you know, I live across the street, and one could argue that a light is warranted right now because of the traffic and the emergency vehicles. Yet, there is no mandate or agreement to put a light in should this proposal be approved as it is currently written. And I wonder, why would PennDOT recommend and approve a light there when there is a clear recommendation based on the study that Frank submitted to use the intersection at North Drive where a traffic signal already exists. So I have a lot of questions for the Board of Supervisors tonight. And I guess one of them is, why are we even considering Municipal Drive when a recommendation has been made by experts? And I think that was primarily funded by the department, the PennDOT. That recommendation was to use Municipal Drive intersection. And why hasn't that been explored? North Drive, have you really fully explored the safety implications of commingling residential traffic with emergency services? And I think it also came up a little bit earlier, which my question was answered. When does PennDOT get actually involved in making a decision? Do they make that decision before you approve or disapprove this? And if they do recommend putting in any kind of a signal or turning lanes or widening municipal drive, when does that take place? Does that take place prior to construction, and if not, when? Because as you know, developments take a long time to be completed. So we could go a long time without having those safety features in place before, the development is completed. I also wondered if anyone had communicated with the fire marshal or the police chief, and I guess they have. But more importantly, has anyone talked to the folks with the boots on the ground, the police officers, the firefighters, the snowplow drivers? Because those are the folks that put their lives on the line for us every day, and I feel that their input should be considered. My husband recently just mentioned about using municipal land for, the road would cut through municipally owned land. And we went over to the township building yesterday to get the map and to confirm that the township did own that land. And we spoke with a representative who was responsible for land development. And this individual was surprised that there would be any use of municipal owned land to access Municipal Drive if that new development goes in. The one thing that also concerns me a lot is I hope we're not heading down the road of the Arcadia development. I read in the August 11th meeting notes, and this is a quote, that the Arcadia development final plan could proceed for approval while access to the site is still being considered by PennDOT. And I just hope we're not heading down that same road where the proposal would be approved without all of the necessary safety features fully evaluated and implemented prior to construction. Thank you, and I hope, would you mind if I submitted this for, okay.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, I'm Carol Irvak. I live at 102 Rittenhouse Circle, and again, the Lancey Court. I am the secretary of our board, of our HOA. I really wasn't going to get up here tonight because I agree and would have to reiterate everything that my neighbor said. However, when I was here last time and I said we were disappointed that we were never notified that this was, I didn't have Greg Adelman's letter with me. Everyone here said, oh, well, this is the first you heard of it. The letter says, after filing the appeal, Toll and the board discussed a possible settlement. And you all said, that wasn't true. And I found out something tonight, and that's the only reason I got up here, is that if the Board of Supervisors has 2 supervisors and no more, then I guess you can all get together and have this discussion with Toll about this development without anybody knowing about it. Is that true?
Well, the Sunshine Act requires that if there is a majority of the Board of Supervisors together, they are not permitted to discuss agency business. Agency business has a definition dealing with the business of the township without being in an advertised public meeting. A minority of the Board of Supervisors can talk to each other. They can talk to anybody they want. Including Toll. Any of the 5 supervisors could call up Toll Brothers tomorrow and talk to Toll Brothers. It's not, there's no prohibition against that. But the fact that you're here tonight before any decisions have been made means that you were given appropriate notice of what's happening here. And it's not after the fact, it's before the fact. so that not only have you been able to voice your concerns in emails and letters and appear tonight, but as I say, when we have a meeting, you'll be involved as well. Nothing's been done. This isn't well, it's too late. We didn't tell you, and now you're up the creek without a paddle. You're here, and the time is now, and nothing's going to get done until everybody has their say.
Unfortunately, people that receive this letter and read it the way it's written, it sounds like, quote, a done deal.
It's not.
Well, okay. And the other thing is, when we first moved in, I've been here since 2007, Mr. McGrath told all of us that he was told by the police chief that a light was planned there at that intersection because of the municipal complex and the police being here. And then we heard stories, oh well, they'll do it later, and of course then McGrath went bankrupt, and that's another story. And then in the process of that, some people found out that there was a light approved at Steubenville Road more than 15 years ago. Is that not true? I don't know, but if that's still not there.
I don't believe that's true. I lived in Rosefield for 18 years and used that intersection every single day of my life, and there was never there was talk about it.
There was talk.
No,
Certainly talk about it. That intersection is in Wrightstown Township, technically.
Right.
So Wrightstown would be working with PennDOT on that. But I've heard talk, never saw anything happen with it.
Well, my hope is that after some of the things you heard tonight, that you'll take that into consideration. And I'm looking forward to the meeting with Toll and I guess Micah and the staff. And hopefully we'll be able to have some impact. Thank you.
Mr. Mccarron, do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, so two things. I noticed everyone had submitted their comments, so I guess I'm going to submit my comments.
Thank you.
Second, Solicitor, I respectfully disagree with your statement that since we've been given notice prior to a vote, that therefore we've been given adequate notice. This matter has been going on for a year. And after a year, the only person who has asked us for any comments or submit any comments was Toll Brothers, and they asked that comments be submitted to them.
At the direction of the Board of Supervisors
Where does it say
specifically.
that?
And where does it say that? In the minutes of a past meeting when the board authorized a reach out to Toll and said, if you're going to submit a settlement plan, you must, before you come before us to get approval or consideration of a settlement plan, that you must notify everyone that you notified when you had your conditional use.
Okay.
The number of people notified goes way beyond the number of people that are required by the ordinance to be notified, which is a 500-foot radius of the property. Notice went out to, and I think Mr. Fisher can certainly support this, notice went out to Devonshire Meadows, Nob Hill, Colonial Commons, Newtown Reserve, residents on Twining Bridge Road, some residents in Newtown Grant, the Lancey Court, anyone who was given the original notification of the conditional use hearing, and others. So at the board's request and the board's demand of Toll, they sent out these notices. So it wasn't Toll's good nature as to why you got notice of this. It was the Board of Supervisors who asked that happen.
Again, I think the Board of Supervisors have been improperly advised, because the Board of Supervisors have allowed Toll Brothers, again, to drive the narrative, send the comments to Toll Brothers. They write a letter that they don't say any of the cons, just the pros. What do you think of this? They don't say any of the cons. And so, again, I respectfully disagree with you.
We'll agree to
I'm
disagree.
very disappointed with this board. I want you to step up and take control of the narrative. It is not relevant whether or not PennDOT thinks a light's necessary. What's relevant is what's safer for residents exiting at North Drive or exiting at an unsignalized intersection at Municipal Drive. That's what's relevant. Take control of the narrative, please.